they send a pretty good man to the mound every day.
Kieschnick quickly behind 1-2.
We'll take another look at it. Wilkins wants it away, and Gardner hangs it high. And by. Way by. And when Sammy hits it, he knows it's gone. There wasn't much doubt about that one. During the daytime, it's very lively here. It's only 335 down the lines, only 365 to the power alleys, and the ball just shoots out of here to all field.
Well, they say baseball's a game of inches. Sammy strung together about 1,600 of them on that swing. And it is 4-0 Chicago. By the way, the Pittsburgh Pirates got a gentle reminder from the Braves today that they are the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Braves are the Braves. 8-2 Atlanta.
You know, the Pirates are in a streak now that the Cubs were in before, in that they entertained the Braves for 4. Then they have Colorado and Florida coming in. So the Pirates are getting their taste of what it's like to play against some of the more elite teams in baseball.
Kieschnick, the chopper. J.T. Snow sure-handed over there. There's the second out of the inning. Well, for the Braves in that game today, Jeff Blauser hit his 5th home run. He is still hitting better than 400. And the date is May 11th. I mean, we're getting along in the season here. Blauser is still hitting everything.
Hit a grand slam yesterday.
Javi Lopez also went deep for Atlanta. And the Pirates drew close to 30,000 for that game today. You know, one of the stories in the American League, Steve, all the home runs that the Cleveland Indians have been hitting. Matt Williams, a former Giant, knocked another one out today, his 9th. But an emerging story from Detroit is this kid, Tony Clark, the former basketball player, the 6'7" first baseman. He hit a pair today, both off Oral Hershiser. Tony Clark has 13 home runs. Scott Service, base hit center field. 5 hits in the inning for the Cubs. And Steve, you go back to yesterday in the 9th inning. The Cubs had 4 hits. 5 hits here in the first inning that they've played today.
Mark Gardner muttering to himself. And the Cubs trying to take advantage of some first inning problems with the breaking ball. And they've certainly taken advantage to the tune of 4 runs.
Sanchez, a first pitch rip.
The way Kevin Foster has thrown the ball of late, and the fact that the Giants have never beaten him, would lead you to believe that although it's not time to phone in the game quite yet, the Cubs are in pretty good shape. Kevin and Terry Mulholland have really done a great job in that starting rotation. And a 4-run lead before you go to the mound makes things a lot more comfortable. And factor in what the leading bomber on this team, Barry Bonds, has done against Foster, which is basically nothing. And the Cubs look to be in pretty good shape today.
Well, if they do win today, that would mean 5 victories on a West Coast swing.
All in all, not too bad.
Down the middle, strike 3 called. Sanchez 3 and out, but the damage is done. Sammy Sosa hits a Mother's Day home run. 4 runs on 5 base hits. Bottom of the first coming. Cubs in front. Not a bad way to get it started today. A big, beautiful number 4 in the top of the first for the Cubs. And now as the Giants come up, it'll be Darrell Hamilton, Jose Vizcaíno, Glenn Allen Hill, and Barry Bonds hitting just .237. And worse than that against Kevin Foster. Mark Lewis, J.T. Snow, Bill Miller, and then Rick Wilkins and the pitcher, Mark Gardner.
And the Pepsi defense for Jim Riggleman, Kieschnick, McCray, and Sosa left to right in the infield. Hanson, Dunston, Sanchez, and Grace, and a battery of Scott Service. And 3 and 2, Kevin Foster. And there's a look at Kevin, throwing the ball very well and seemingly getting better with each start.
He would actually be a 3-0 Kevin Foster had he not drawn the Colorado Rockies in a couple of starts. That's like saying the diet is going really well except for all the ding-dongs and yodels that you keep eating. But against the Rockies, 0-2 with an ERA up and over 13. Against everybody else, Kevin is 3-0 and the ERA is 1.6.
Got to make sure you throw strikes. You got a big lead. You don't want to walk anybody.
That one floating away.
Hamilton hasn't really been hitting the ball very well, so you certainly would like to make him hit his way out.
Ford in there from Foster, 3-1. Down and away, and Hamilton is on to lead it off for San Francisco. The former Cub, Jose Vizcaíno, up next.
One of our cameramen, Tom Atkins, would like to wish a happy Mother's Day to his grandmother, Neola Williams, a loyal Cub fan, looking on in Bullhead City, Arizona. It's one of Harry's favorite towns.
Bullhead City, really?
Bullhead City. And there is...
That's the cameraman.
There's Tom Atkins.
Proving to Grandma that he is hard at work today. Indeed, a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the audience. I'd love to wish my grandma a happy Mother's Day, too. Except she's almost deaf, so...
Say it very loud.
Well, I was hoping they could come up with a graphic or something. You could kind of crawl it across the bottom of the screen.
That would be nice.
Her name is Sarah, guys. Happy Mother's Day, Grandma Sarah.
Vizcaíno does not run particularly well, so on a ground ball you can turn two. Kevin, of course, as you know, is a pop-up strikeout and fly ball pitcher primarily, but he's been getting a few more ground balls of late, and Vizcaíno is grounded into two double plays, one from each side of the plate.
Runner was bluffing off at first. Vizcaíno swinging through.
I'd like to say happy Mother's Day to my stepmother, Shirley, who has her hands full taking care of my dad, recovering from surgery, and doing a fine job of it.
How is your dad doing, all right?
He's doing very well, and the good wishes of most of our wonderful audience out there are greatly appreciated by my family and myself.
With Vizcaíno batting, we're reminded there are a few other ex-Cubs on this Giants roster. That's what they've done in this series against our old mates, Glen Allen Hill most notable. Steve, yesterday the Iowa Cubs, AAA affiliate for the Cubs, squeaked one out in 12 innings. Brant Brown hit a home run down there. Jeremy Gonzalez got the start yesterday, went 7 innings, picked up a no decision. That one twisted away foul. 1-2 still the count.
Kevin's going to depend on a high fastball to Vizcaíno, and he's striking out more this year than he usually does. I got to believe a little high heat will get him to pop one up here and might be able to throw it by him. You'd like to clear as many people off base as you could before you get to Barry Bonds, even though he is struggling.
Called strike on that outside corner. Down goes Vizcaíno.
Well, there's a little high heat. And Vizcaíno down on strikes has a word for Eric Gregg. Pretty good pitch. Vizcaíno, even if it wasn't called, he probably swung at it anyway. And the reaction of Vizcaíno, not happy with Eric Gregg. But you don't have too much to say to umpires these days. They're getting a little testy.
Well, they put out the edict right in spring training. They said no more yapping about balls and strikes.
Zero tolerance this year.
Here is Glen Allen Hill.
There's the slider, and Kevin wants to keep it low and away.
Well, getting the ball up is just something that I suppose is a necessary evil with Kevin Foster. That is where he pitches for the most part. Some guys can get away with it.
Well, you know, Josh, it's good if it's by design. If you know when you're going to throw that high fastball, when you're ahead of the hitter, that's a good part. But high is a matter of conjecture. High above the letters is good.
in the strike zone, probably not.
But high in the strike zone and high in the National League is anything really above the belt. If you throw it between the belt and the letters, that's not a real good spot for not only Kevin Foster, but for anyone. But he gets a lot of strikeouts on the pitch that we call higher than high. And a lot of hitters around the league say, for whatever reason, and it's probably the delivery of Kevin Foster, despite the fact that he is not overpowering with his fastball, you see a lot of missed high fastballs because of the deception of his motion.
That one is rammed right in there, and a strike called to Glen Allen Hill.
That was the good slider. It was low and away. Now you have a choice. You can go head high with the fastball or that same slider. Either one will send Glen Allen Hill back to the bench with his 30th strikeout of the year.
Hamilton with speed has the lead at first. Not going. And Hill gets blown away. Little high cheese for your kitchen there, Glen Allen.
Strikeout number 30, high heat. End of at bat. Hello, Barry. Glen Allen has no chance to catch up to this one. It was inside, it was moving in, and it was up above his hands, which is where Kevin wanted it.
Now Barry Bonds, who yesterday was the flu-ridden Barry Bonds. He sat down for the first time all year. But even though the flu has been going away, that slump has not been going away. He's 1 out of his last 16. You ask what do Bonds and Gary Sheffield have in common this year?
Earrings.
That, and they are each hitting .237. Oh, maybe not anymore. That ball is going to sail out. Big-time home run, Barry Bonds.
Looked to me like Kevin tipped off a straight change. And Barry Bonds, a lot like Sammy Sosa, is a home run waiting to happen. And Barry Bonds hits his 5th. He's now driven in 15. And active career home run leaders, Barry Bonds, knocking at the door at 340. And so the slump-ridden Barry Bonds halves the lead. It's now 4-2. And Kevin Foster, I believe, has given up his 9th home run of the year. That ties him with Steve Traxel for the club lead in that dubious department.
We thought this year Bonds and Sheffield would be the two guys that do some pretty serious hitting. Mark Lewis with a base hit to left. Sheffield off to the slow start in Florida. Bonds, same story here in San Francisco. But Bonds, like some of his teammates now, starting to get it going.
It is the straight change, and Barry Bonds hit it like he knew it was coming. Sammy goes back. It's long gone. And if you get it up in the air to right or right center, there's just not much doubt about it. Bonds taking out a little frustration this year on Kevin Foster. Cubs still with a 2-run lead.
Bonds voyage.
Yes.
Long gone to right. Surprising that JT Snow is sitting there with a donut behind that home run total. No homers, 9 RBIs. This Giants franchise, usually, no matter what they do, they've got somebody that can hit for power at first base.
This should be a good matchup for Kevin because JT Snow doesn't hit a high fastball. Kevin throws a lot of them. One thing that Kevin has to be aware of is either the slider or the changeup down. JT Snow is looking for something thigh high or lower because that's what he can get the bat on.
Taking, and he's ahead of 2-0 in what is now a 4-2 game. Snow does have a little bit of power. Had a 24 home run season for the Angels a couple of years ago. But Orlando Cepeda, he ain't. 24 is probably, say the scouts, a high water mark for him. He's a guy that's more of an alley power kind of guy. 15 homers and when he's going well, maybe 35 doubles.
Well, you know, there's 3 first basemen kind of fall in, oh, actually 4 first basemen fall into the same mode. That's Hal Morris, David Segui, Mark Grace, and J.T. Snow as far as not being big bangers at a power position.
Ball 4 too high. J.T. Snow is on, and with 2 out, this little mini rally continues.
And Mark Grace now goes to the mound. Phil Regan comes out from the dugout. Scott Service comes from behind the plate. And they all want to talk to Kevin Foster and try to settle him down.
Couple walks, couple strikeouts, couple of hits in this inning allowed by Kevin. And Kevin was so good last time out at San Diego, got that 2-1 win. And control was very much the key. He only walked 1 batter.
Jim Riggleman has seen a 4-run lead early be cut in half, and he's hoping that it stays right there, but he's got a pretty tough hitter in Bill Miller, a man with some huge shoes to fill here in San Francisco, taking over for the very popular and very powerful Matt Williams at third. Miller doesn't have that kind of power, but he is a switch hitter, a little better hitter from the left side, and so far he hasn't shown too much power, but he's a line drive alleys type hitter.
Well, yesterday it took us about 3 hours to get to 4-2. Here we are in the first inning today, 4-2 ball game. Bill Miller's had a big series. That one curls high, and that's 6 in a row out of the zone from Foster.
Well, normally you'd think after 6 in a row the hitter would be taking. I don't think that's the case. Dusty Baker, a fine hitter in his own right, knows the value of the 2-0 pitch when you pretty much can guarantee a fastball's coming.
Three balls, no strikes. And another lefty on deck, Rick Wilkins.
A struggling lefty on deck. Wilkie checking in at 155.
Is that what time we got to the ballpark today?
Yes.
On 3-0. Down and in, 8 in a row out of the zone. And since the Bonds home run, not much has been happening for Kevin Foster that he'd like to tell the folks about. Mark Lewis with the single on the first pitch after the Bonds homer. Then Snow and Miller each draw 4-pitch walks.
Well, both managers know that their bullpens aren't quite as fresh after that extravaganza Friday night. Neither manager wants to go to the pen early, but Jim Riggleman has Larry Cassian throwing. And Rick Wilkins with a chance to do some damage against the team that brought him to the major league.
There's the strike from Foster, and with the bases loaded, 2 out. Another strike, knee high to Rick Wilkins.
When you're not hitting, normally you take the good ones and swing at the bad ones. Wilkins doesn't hit the low inside slider at all, and he has problems with a head-high fastball. So a couple of choices for Kevin Foster. Wilkins will hit the ball belt high out over the plate away from him. That's what he likes best, where he can extend his arm.
Up and away, Kevin Foster trying to battle back here. This is kind of an emotional time for Kevin. He knows tomorrow is the 2nd anniversary of the passing of his dad, Robert. And Kevin dedicating this season, as he did last season, to the memory of his father. Wow, Wilkins just getting a piece, some rising heat from Kevin Foster.
Well, Kevin's third pitch is that slider low and in. Many times in a jam, pitchers are hesitant to go to their third pitch. If he can get one low and into Wilkie, that'll be the end of this at bat. Depends on what Scott Service has in mind, however.
Got him! Foster blows him away. And he ends up striking out the side, though there was some damage done in the middle. Couple runs in on a couple of hits and 3 walks at the end of 1. Cubs 4, Giants 2. Cubs in front 4-2 as we get to the 2nd inning. And you get the sense that today, just like the other couple games of this series, anything and everything can and will happen.
The Cubs have always played very competitive and very close games against the Giants. If you look down through their history, but especially recent history, you'll see there's not much to choose from between these two teams, and just about every game is an extravaganza.
Well, last year the season series was 7-5, and that's been about the way it has gone really since we turned into this decade, 1990 on. Somebody's 5-7, or they're both 6-6. True to form, this is what they call the rubber game of the 3-game series. Cubs trying to follow up on having won a 3-game series in San Diego. Now they can turn the trick again up here in the Bay. Tapper to third, Bill Miller. Floats the throw, but no problem. 1 down. Now we'll get to the top of the order for Brian McRae, whose next hit, by the way, Steve, is going to give him 1,000 for his major league career, and that's a nice milestone to talk about.
Well, there'll be a few more in the career of Brian McRae. Before it's said and done, he's going to hit in the 270, perhaps 280 range. And it's a long way to come back after that start, but when you look at a career of a guy who's been around 6 or 7 years, you got to figure he's always going to be around his lifetime average.
Down the line in left. Bonds reaching out to make a great play. And he is smooth out there in left field. That was not an easy catch, but he made it look very simple.
Barry Bonds is just about as good as it gets in left field. A position not known for great arms and really not great speed. But Barry Bonds has just about everything. Doesn't have the most overpowering arm, but he's very accurate. And as far as speed is concerned, he's as fast as any left fielder in the game.
Barry Bonds and Sean Dunston have been clowning around good-naturedly before the games here in San Francisco. Of course, they were teammates last year.
Looks like Eric Gregg is going to be a little generous on the outside corner. So if Kevin Foster and Mark Gardner can keep the ball out there like Kurt Reeder did yesterday, they'll get the benefit of the call.
Comes in this time, and Dunston pushes the count to 1-1.
Well, Sean moved a little closer to the plate. He knows that Gardner throws curveballs, and a lot of them. So he moved just a fraction closer to the plate, which usually invites the fastball in.
The veteran, Mark Gardner.
He signed his first professional contract in 1985. He's been around a long time.
Dunston powers one to right center field. Glenn Allen Hill has it come right to him. So the Cubs, they hit the ball hard, go in order in the 2nd. Through an inning and a half, Cubs 4, Giants 2. Well, Mark Gardner righted himself after a rocky first. Let's see if Kevin Foster can do the same as he faces Mark Gardner.
You don't want to even consider walking this guy. He is 1 for 15, as you see by that graphic.
Pumps in a fastball for a strike this time. Well, Steve, we were talking about pitchers who sometimes struggle in the first inning before they get the feel of what they have working for them. And there have been some notorious first inning strugglers that end up going out there having great games. Tom Glavine springs to mind. Jack Morris always used to have problems in the first inning, but you looked up and all of a sudden he was still in there in the 8th.
Good high heat. Kevin is fan 4. Well, probably one of the greatest pitchers that you could score early against was Bob Gibson. You'd have to get him in the first or second inning. If you didn't, you really had very little chance of getting him. He just got tougher and tougher as the game moved along.
Good-looking breaking ball to Darrell Hamilton. Well, the other thing, and it's kind of subtle too, but the first inning is the one inning guaranteed that the best hitters are coming up to face you. 1, 2, 3 leading off, and that's the only inning where you know that's going to happen.
And there's one more factor, Josh, that very few people understand, and that is the pitcher is the only man on the field who does not warm up in the place where he's going to go to work. Everybody takes ground balls at their position. They hit in the batter's box, but the pitcher warms up on a completely foreign mound to the one he goes to when he has to do his job.
Down goes Hamilton, and wow, Kevin Foster bringing that high smoke. Has got 5 strikeouts in an inning and 2/3. That's maxed out, folks. You can't do better than that. Unless, of course, there's a dropped third strike, the runner gets on, and I mean, there are technicalities, of course, but 5 outs and 5 strikeouts, that's okay. Yesterday, the Cubs sent out Telemaco and Tatis and Turk Wendell. They all had big strikeout days.
Well, if you're thinking about Kevin Foster and his career high, it's 13. It was back on September 27th of '95 against the St. Louis Cardinals.
Vizcaíno overmatched in the count 1-2. Well, talking about the strikeouts, among the many bizarre oddities from yesterday, the two teams combined for no walks and 19 strikeouts yesterday.
How about the Rocket? What did Roger Clemens get? 14?
Without a walk.
Not a bad day.
Yeah,
A
Clemens.
man that some said didn't have much left when he signed that huge contract with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Oh, yeah, he's just tricking them right now. Strike 3 called outside corner. 4 strikeouts in a row for Kevin Foster. 6 strikeouts in 2 innings, and our score at the end of 2. 4-2 Cubs. Getting it going in the third, Mark Grace up there against Mark Gardner in a 4-2 game, and Grace with a count of 1 ball, 1 strike. It has been a power day so far, power hitting and power pitching. Sosa and Bonds, the 2 mega stars in this game, have each gone deep with tape measure home runs. And Kevin Foster has provided a nice little secondary storyline by striking out 6 batters in 2 innings.
Could be a good day for the Cubs to win because Houston has already lost to Florida 6-3. Atlanta has lost to Pittsburgh 8-2. Cincinnati is losing 3-0 to San Diego. And the only team in the division ahead, St. Louis, in the bottom of the 8th, leading the Mets 4-3.
Cardinals got a 2-run homer from Royce Clayton in that one. In that Marlins game, by the way, Alex Fernandez got the win. He's now 4-4, and Rob Nen, who struggled earlier this year, he picked up his 9th save. Mark Grace swings and misses. Not something you'll see that often, but the strikeout still very much in vogue here today at Candlestick. Tough place to play, you got to figure, and we asked Dusty Baker about that right before the game.
Tough. You know, on days when it's no wind, it plays very small. You know, it's a hitter's ballpark when wind doesn't blow. The only problem is the wind blows all the time. And most of the time when the wind blows, it blows from left to right. And we have a area out there in right center where the ball will just take off, much like the ball that Brian McRae hit the other day. You know, when it gets up there to right field, especially play small out there. But, you know, you can't call the ball too soon. You can't take your eye off the ball. And here, much like Wrigley Field, tough field is right field because you got sun and wind. And I've only seen a couple guys that can play it outstanding, since they've been here. So the main thing is you have to concentrate, and we have to realize that it's our home field, and this is one of our main home field advantages of the wind and the sun here.
Sammy Sosa up there now, and he'll try to prove the theories, the outfield theories here. Brought forth by Dusty Baker. He'll try to send some outfielders scampering around out there. Sammy, like the entire team, starting to pick it up here as we get into May. And you really do get the sense, Steve, that Sammy is about to really go off. He's got a 7-game hitting streak.
Couldn't be at a better time for the Cubs, who are coming home now for an extended homestand against 4 teams, culminated by Philadelphia. Cubs have 9 at home, and if Sammy does start heating it up, he's going to make it very difficult on the National League pitcher. And usually Sammy hits his home runs in bunches.
All right, now Sammy with the 5 home runs and 21 runs batted in. And it's funny to think that for much of the year, Sammy has been slumping. You look up, you look at it kind of funny. You say, is that right? 21? And it is 21 runs batted in already. Not bad for a guy who's been struggling.
Well, that's what Sammy's paid to do. He knows that. He's the one consistent thumper in the middle of this lineup. And before it's all said and done, Sammy's going to hit close to 40 home runs, and he's going to drive in over 100.
Solidly to left center. Base hit for Sammy again. So the Cubs with 1 on, 1 out. And speaking of hitting, our Nissan trivia question, which Giant has the highest single season batting average since 1970? Another fine question. I got to go Willie McGee.
Well, that's a good one. That's a good guess. That's a strong guess. I'm going to say that I'll take Will Clark.
Ball knocked down by Wilkins. Sammy has to stay put at first. Rick Wilkins didn't make the list there, did he?
Not yet, but it's early in his Giant career. Although he has been to bat 5 times in this series, and he's been swinging at the invisible ball so far, 5 strikeouts. Gotta figure Sammy might be ready to go. He's stolen 3 bases, been caught just once. The Cubs as a team have stolen 20. They've been caught 12 times. Sean Dunston leads the parade. He's 8 for 8.
Eric Gregg is calling some strikes today, and both pitchers seem to now maybe to have adjusted to that a little bit. They're using that outside corner.
Well, that's where Eric is calling him. He's not giving you anything inside, but he will call the outside pitch a couple inches off the corner.
Couple strikeouts in this game for Gardner, but again, Kevin Foster with 6 strikeouts through 2 innings. The Cubs, in their long history, in a 9-inning game, the most strikeouts that anybody's ever given them is 15. Rick Sutcliffe the last to do it back in '84. Sammy not going, and down and in. Steve was exactly right. That inside corner not nearly as wide as the outside one.
Well, if you figure that Gardner is going to go away and Wilkins continues to look in the dugout to see perhaps if Dusty would like a pitch out, but very rarely will you see it 2-1. Good pitch to go for Sammy. He's getting a walking lead at first.
There's the strike, and it's now 2-2.
Lesson for all you young pitchers out there: don't allow anybody to get a walking lead. Make sure before you deliver the ball that the base runner is stationary. If you give him a walking lead, if he's moving forward when you're delivering the ball, He gets an extra step or two on the jump.
Dave Hansen, the former L.A. Dodger. Oh, he does have relatives in Chicago. Says he's happy to be playing where they can see him. Sosa was going. This one sprayed foul. And the Cubs, if nothing else, are tuckering out Mark Gardner. He's thrown a bunch of pitches here as we play in the third. 4-2 game. Let's quickly pause for station identification.
This is America's #1 sports station, WGN-TV, Chicago.
With Steve Stone and producer-director Arnie Harris, Josh Lewin with you from San Francisco, and thank you for spending Mother's Day with us today. Sammy on the move, ground ball, bobbled. Hansen out at first base. The recovery by Vizcaino.
Well, I think Sammy running made Vizcaino try to hurry to get the double play. So Sammy running in a good spot, keeping the Cubs out of the double play, and you see Jose looking at second when he bobbles this ball, but the presence of mind to pick it up, and he gets the out at first.
Here's a guy, Brooks Kieschnick, that cannot wait to get home.
He's not the Lone Ranger.
No, but nobody else is 0 for 20 on the trip. Of course, right before the Cubs set sail for this West Coast voyage, Kieschnick pumped out a couple home runs against Jim Bullinger in that game against the Expos, a 14-8 game at Wrigley. Again, that outside corner.
Well, the hitters are going to have to start looking a couple inches outside, because Gardner's going to stay out there as long as Eric Gregg is giving him that corner. And with Brooks very close to the plate, you would think that Gardner would try again out there.
Up and away, and a quick snap throw back. Sammy diving in.
Sammy just made it, and had that throw been lower, they would have had him at second. Sammy leaning the wrong way. You see Sammy with one false step to third, and fortunately the throw is high because the ball beats him. But a good call by Brian Gorman. Sammy's hand was in under the tag.
Well, he tried to get it to the same outside corner.
Anytime a catcher yanks the ball 3 or 4 inches, you're not going to get the call. That's what Rick Wilkins did. That one well outside. Wilkie tried to drag it back over the corner, but Eric Gregg would have none of it.
Not that time either. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Scott Service, who singled in the first inning, would be next. Strike 3 on that wide outside corner. And it swallows up Kieschnick to end the inning. 3 strikeouts now for Gardner. And we'll play the bottom of the third. Foster, who's already struck out 6, will be on the mound. Kevin Foster back to work. And it's the vanguard of the San Francisco order here. Very tough 3, 4, 5 part of the order with Hill, then Bonds, and Mark Lewis. Cubs in front 4-2. And all the scoring back in the first inning. Cubs fielders might be getting maybe to atrophy a little bit. Nobody's touched the baseball yet. Strikeouts all the way for Kevin Foster to record the outs. The home run by Bonds, few walks. The only fielder who's gotten to even look at a baseball so far is Brooks Kieschnick. Picked up Lewis's single. Another hard foul slammed back by Glen Allen Hill. 2-2.
That fastball was a little lower than Kevin wanted. He goes upstairs. He can throw it by Hill. He did that in the first inning. Or you can go with that slider. We'll see what Scott Service has in mind as Kevin Foster bidding for strikeout number 7.
Twisted foul down into the seats.
Later on 9, don't miss everybody's favorite creature of the night, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. One of my faves. Be sure to catch her buffiness in action when she undoes the undead. There's a lot at stake. Quotation marks. High school never was so scary. It's Buffy the Vampire Slayer tonight at 10:30, only on WGN Channel 9.
One of your faves?
Oh, sure.
What do you write for Tiger Beat?
Yes. I love that show, and unfortunately we're going to be on the plane and we'll miss it.
I've actually been watching that show.
Very good.
It is. It's a very entertaining show. My demographic, too. Here's a chance for an infielder. Dunston deep in the hole. He didn't get him.
Well, Glen Allen Hill can get down the line as well as anybody in the league for a very big man, and Dunston makes a good play. This is a slider. Glen Allen Hill can catch up to that. And Dunston, planting the back foot as quickly as he can, makes a good, strong throw. But Glen Allen Hill, racing through the bag, which is what you want to do, beats the play at first. So it goes as the 3rd Giant hit.
Barry Bonds tattooed one out of here in the first inning. A 40-40 man last year. Barry Bonds cranked one to right field. That's trouble. The ball pinballing away by Sammy. Glen Allen Hill being waved to third. He will hold right there. Double for Barry Bonds.
Well, it's safe to say at this point that Bonds is over the flu, and he's over his season-long malaise. He saw a changeup the first pitch last time. Now he sees a fastball, and he just rifles it. Fortunately, it doesn't get down in the corner because Glen Allen Hill would have scored. Sammy able to get it back in, and Scott Service now going to the mound. And the bullpen up and going for the Cubs as Kevin Foster in a jam here in the 3rd.
Nissan trivia question. Which Giant has the highest single-season batting average since 1970? Ruh-roh, Barry Bonds.
Wrong again.
What do you mean again? That breaks the streak.
Of 1 in a row?
Of, no, 2.
Oh, okay.
I was sizzling. Well, you know, Bonds hits for the power. He steals the bases. You forget that he can also hit .336.
Well, you don't win MVPs because you can't do it all. And he's got 3 of them under his belt.
2nd and 3rd, nobody out in a 4-2 game. There's a fastball zipped right in there to Lewis.
Infield back, they're going to concede the run for the out, trying to stay out of the big inning. Lewis a pretty good hitter. He rifled a single in the first.
Lewis in there at 2nd today because Jeff Kent was given the day off by Dusty Baker. Lewis, a one-time number 2 pick in the nation. Jim Riggleman has the number 2 in the nation pick on his bench, actually on his disabled list right now, Tyler Houston. Inside an eclipse Mark Lewis. The bases are loaded. 14 Giants have batted now, and Steve, still there has not been a put out in this game by anybody but the catcher, Scott Service.
And they want to turn around J.T. Snow to his weak side. And so Kevin Foster, who was treated to a 4-run lead early, will not survive the 3rd inning. He will leave with the bases loaded and nobody out.
Jim Riggleman drops down the hammer, says, if you're not throwing strikes, I got to go get Cassian. 4-2 game, bases loaded. Bottom of the 3rd. We'll come right back. Kevin Foster is done after 2+ innings. He struck out 6. All 6 outs he recorded. But while he wasn't throwing strikes and strikeouts, he was hitting batters and walking people. And Jim Riggleman says time for Larry Cassian.
Larry Cassian comes in at 0-1. That convenience score ERA at 7-11. On for the 9th time with the bases loaded. And one of the motivations for Jim Riggleman, as you look at a steaming Kevin Foster, is that J.T. Snow is very good from the left side, but suspect from the right side, hitting just 161. And Riggs, knowing that this is a pretty big game going home for a long homestand, wants to turn Snow around and hope to get out of this inning with as little damage as possible.
Bullpen has been fantastic in this series. After Phil Regan went over to give Kevin Foster a hang in there, Billy Williams does the same. We mentioned this is an emotional time for Kevin as we come up on the anniversary of the passing of his father. J.T. Snow, who, as Steve mentioned, just has not been hitting at all as a right-hand batter. Now Cassian drops behind him 1-0 as Foster watches on.
There's nothing as frustrating as being treated to an early lead and then not being around to see a resolution. Now the difference here with Cassian, he's not going to be given quite as generous an outside corner as you look at the disparity right-handed and left-handed for Snow, because the umpire wants to see him work a little bit, and so he's going to have to throw the ball over to get the benefit of the strike.
Bases loaded, nobody out. 3 balls, no strikes, no place to put Snow. And a guy that hits in the 100s right-handed, you just want to put it in there for him. There's the strike on the inside.
Now even if you're hitting 161, you know a fastball's coming. And Larry's going to have to make a good pitch, preferably down, get the ground ball, and get a pair.
Or a trio. Nope. A run comes in. It's now 4-3.
RBI number 10. That run charged to Kevin Foster, and it narrows the gap to 4-3.
Another switch hitter, Bill Miller. Good contact hitter from either side. A guy with a batting average of .304. On that outside corner, not nearly as inviting for Cassian yet. Miller walked in the first inning. That's a strike right around shin level.
If a ground ball comes to either Cassian or Hansen, they're going to come home with it. If it goes in the middle infield or to Mark Grace, they'll try second to first on a double play.
Some nasty bite on that one, but it bit down and in. On the Cubs, who yesterday didn't walk a soul, have walked 4 already in this one today, and they've hit a batter. But they're still leading on the strength of the Sammy Sosa 3-run homer. To Dunston. Bobbles it. Safe, and a run is in.
Dunston having a hard time fielding here in San Francisco. Charged with 3 errors in the ball game Friday night. Picks up error number 7 for the Cubs, their 40th. And a double play ball goes awry. The game is tied. The base is still loaded. Nobody out.
Not turning the double plays has been something that has just been crushing this Chicago Cubs team all road trip.
Goes as a run batted in because you can't assume the double play, and Sean, trying to right the ship, cannot get it to first in time. And the lead, which looks so promising at 4, has dissolved.
Now Rick Wilkins, who's been up 5 times in this series and has struck out 5 times. Got to throw this guy a strike. He's not hitting. And the pitcher on deck. The former Cub, Rick Wilkins. Sliced towards the line. Fair ball. 5-4 San Francisco. And this is like a Nintendo game here. One at a time, the runs come in, still bases loaded.
RBI number 11 as Rick Wilkins bloops this ball to left field. A long way to run for Brooks Kieschnick, and he can't get to it. All 5 runs charged to Kevin Foster. Not much Brooks can do. This one just tapped in a good spot, and the bases remain loaded. Still nobody out here in what's turning into a nightmarish 3rd inning.
Infield single, double, hit batsman, walk, error, bloop single. That's how it's gone so far in this 3rd inning. Very frustrating. Bottom of the 3rd. Gardner with a weak cut. Now you close the book on Foster. A couple innings, plus a few batters here in the 3rd inning. 4 hits, 3 walks, a hit batsman, 5 runs allowed. But again, he struck out 6. Cassian pulling the string, and Gardner just a bit out in front there.
Well, if you can strike out Gardner, and one more curveball will probably do the trick. You got the left-hander on deck in Hamilton. And maybe the Cubs can get out of this inning without any further damage. But there's still nobody out.
There have been some remarkable things that you might never see again in this series. That 8-5-4 triple play springs to mind yesterday. And right now, twice through the order, the Cubs have not had any putouts, except for Scott Service, who's got another. The strikeout for Cassian, that's incredible. 18 men have come up. No infielders, no outfielders have caught the ball yet. It's been all strikeouts or walks or hits. Top of the order, Darrell Hamilton. And the ground ball double play would be a beautiful thing right here. Hamilton, a tough guy to get. Socks it foul. Here's a good look at the former Cub, Rick Wilkins. It was early in the season, 6 years ago, that he came up with the Cubs for the first time. Base hit right field. 1 run in. And they go station to station again. 6-4 San Francisco.
Only the 2nd RBI this year for Hamilton. As Cassian throws a breaking ball, gets it down in a good spot. Hamilton does a good piece of hitting, driving it through the right side. Sonny Jackson doesn't want to run on the arm of Sammy Sosa. He knows he's got 6 assists, and the bullpen up and going once again. Looks like Kent Bottenfield That's Jim Riggleman coming out, but Bottenfield hasn't thrown a warm-up pitch yet, so Cassian's going to have to stay in the game for now. And the Giants have a 2-run lead.
There's Bottenfield, and we mentioned before the game Jim Riggleman was in a somewhat giddy mood, a happy mood. He knows that the team showed some spunk yesterday. Yeah, they lost, but they did come back in the 9th inning and almost pulled it out. They've been playing some pretty good ball towards the end of this road trip, but you don't see Jim Riggleman smiling right now. Terry Mulholland will be on the mound Tuesday when the Cubs come back to Wrigley Field. Harry's back in the booth as a 9-game homestand starts up.
Riggs looking down to see if Bottenfield is close. You've got Glenn Allen Hill in the on-deck circle. I don't believe he wants to see Cassian facing Hill. So to avoid that, ground ball double play would look pretty good in the infield halfway, but they're in at the corner.
Boy, that outside corner, which you could once drive a truck through earlier in this game, is closing up here. Cassian has to prove he can throw a strike.
Starting pitchers will get the benefit of that call if they stay out there, but when a new man comes in, he's got to establish that corner himself.
2-0 on Vizcaíno. Giants have batted around here in the 3rd inning. Fly ball curling away, out of play.
Remember, this is a team, the San Francisco Giants, that have averaged over 4.5 runs a game on the road, but only 3 runs a game here in San Francisco. They're last in the league in hitting, but not today.
Line shot to center. McRae's got it. Runner tags from 3rd. It's now a 7-4 ball game. And finally, a Cub fielder has something to do. Ryan McRae grabs that ball out there.
Goes as the 6th run batted in by Jose Vizcaíno. That's his first sacrifice fly. A line drive hit right at Bryan. And that's going to be it. It will indeed be Kent Bottenfield against Glenn Allen Hill.
There'll be runners at 1st and 2nd for him. There are 5 runs in here in the Giants' 3rd. Remember, the Giants in the first game of this series scored only 3 runs in what was a 14-inning ball game. Yesterday, a 4-2 game. Right now, it is 7-4 for San Francisco. Back with more after this. Well, the new pitcher for the Cubs is Kent Bottenfield, and he's been getting a lot of work.
The entire bullpen has been getting a lot of work. Bottenfield on for the 16th time, a 1-0 record. He won a game in this series. That extra inning extravaganza, he looked pretty tough in the 13th and 14th innings and was rewarded with a victory. ERA of 3.97. And he's walked 12 in 22 2/3 innings. And watch and contrast 2 of the real good home run hitters in all of baseball, Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds. Sammy hit a high breaking ball, and Bonds hit a changeup. With the same result.
And at the end of the season, that could be about 90 home runs between those 2 guys, maybe more. Runners at 1st and 2nd for Glenn Allen Hill. 5 runs in the last of the 3rd. And Hill chasing the very first pitch. Skies it into the crowd. The Mets, by the way, rallied and beat the Cardinals 6-4.
Everyone in the division has lost today, except for Cincinnati, and they currently trail San Diego 3-2. That game in the top of the 5th.
Plenty of time left in this one. Cubs will have to come from down 3. Bottenfield trying to make sure it doesn't get beyond that. The White Sox game is a final. Chicago coming from behind to win. Maybe that can happen twice today. White Sox beat Oakland 8-5. Time called as Eric Gregg motions for the ball boy to come on out there. There you go. Glenn Allen Hill started this mess with an infield single. Eventually scored on a bases-loaded walk. Another former Cub. You saw Rick Wilkins out there. Glenn Allen Hill actually put up some pretty good power numbers when he was with the Cubs. Didn't get to play that much.
He started in center field for a while as the Cubs were searching for someone to go out there. Glenn Allen Hill has very good speed. He's normally not a center fielder. He prefers the corners, but he played center.
Into this one to center field. Way up there for Brian McRae. He does have it, and the inning finally is over. But they'll ring that bell 5 times, meaning 5 runs are in. And we'll go to the 4th. 7-4 San Francisco.
The Cubs return home on Tuesday, May 13th for a 7-game series versus the West rivals, the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Giants. They all come to Chicago. Then the Phillies visit Wrigley Field for a 2-game series beginning Tuesday, May 20th at 7:05. Purchase your tickets today by calling 312-831-CUBS.
Scott Service to get it going for the Cubs in the 4th. He's ahead 1-0. And we do hope to see you out at Wrigley Tuesday night. A tribute to Jackie Robinson plant. Ernie Banks will be there, Buck O'Neill. And hopefully you'll be there too. If not, of course, we've got it for you right here on WGN. We'll take air at 7 o'clock Chicago time, tell you about Terry Mulholland and Pedro Estacio. Service cranks the 1-1 on the ground. Lewis almost knocked down by it, but he rights himself and gets Scott Service.
And it would appear once again that the Cubs will miss Hideo Nomo. It seems like every series with the Dodgers, the Cubs fortunately miss the very talented Japanese right-hander.
That's the good news. The bad news is it is Estacio and Ramon Martinez that, well, I mean, everybody they run out there is quality.
It's like the Braves. You can go up and down and try to find a soft spot in that starting rotation, and you can't find one.
Well, Smoltz was a winner today. How about yesterday, Denny Nagel, the former Pirate, goes back to Three Rivers for the first time. There's a base hit by Sanchez to center field. And just to finish the thought, Nagel now 6-0 for the Atlanta Braves. And you figure as their number 4 starter, he's going to be facing number 4 starters pretty much the whole year. And there aren't a lot of number 4 starters in baseball that are as good as Denny Nagel.
Well, Bottenfield getting an opportunity to hit, which has happened only twice this year, as Riggs certainly doesn't want to deplete that bullpen any further, even with the off day tomorrow.
The bunt pushed right to J.T. Snow. And he'll tag Bottenfield going by. The sacrifice. We were talking about the homestand coming up for the Cubs. And you see we're finishing up here in San Francisco today, the off day tomorrow, and then Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and Phillies. Nice long 9-game stand. Then back on the road, we'll see the Reds and Pirates for the first time. The Reds trailing San Diego 3-2 today. Padres batting in the 5th. The Padres blew them out yesterday, 9-6. Chopper handled by Gardner. And McRae is out, so are the Cubs. Nothing doing in the 4th. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, 1 left. At the end of 3 1/2, 7-4 Giants. Welcome back to San Francisco. Josh Lewin with Steve Stone. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the audience today. That fourth spot in the top of the first, but then 2:05 on the bottom. That's great if you're trying to call Alabama. That's the area code, but that's not real good if you're trying to win this ball game. Last road game on this very long trip.
Well, unfortunately, Kevin Foster treated to a 4-run lead. That's a rarity. Just didn't have it today, and Jim Riggleman went to the bullpen. Now the Cubs looking up at a 3-run deficit, and Kent Bottenfield has got to hold down the Giants, who have found their stroke today.
Now Barry Bonds has been 2 out of 2, and he is one guy that had not hurt the Cubs at all. He's been sick for a couple days. He is rifling the ball all over the place this afternoon.
Well, not like Sammy Sosa, as far as the Cubs are concerned. If Bonds is hitting, the Giants certainly will score some runs. And if Sosa is hitting, the Cubs will score some runs. Both of them hitting today, and we've got 11 runs on the board.
Plenty of time left for the offense to get it geared up. You got to hold down the Giants, and if you keep on sizzling in fastballs to Barry Bonds, that's a good start. That one didn't miss by much. Bonds, a career 500 hitter against Bottenfield. But Kent shouldn't take that personally. This is an MVP type player. He's won the award 3 times. Three balls, 2 strikes to Barry Bonds.
Dusty Baker said that Bonds has carried us for so long. It's time for the team to carry him until he gets hot. It appears that he is hot.
Ground ball will be played by Mark Grace. And finally, Barry Bonds set down, first out of the 4th inning. And Barry just busted his bat over his knee. He carried that bat with him down there to first, about halfway to first, and he peeled off, and he's got himself some kindling for the fireplace.
That was broken on the swing, and I think Barry a little unhappy that he didn't hit that ball harder. Make sure that the bat can't be used ever again.
A mixed reaction from the crowd, too.
You see it broken there, and he says, well, as long as it's broken already, I'll just snap it.
Mark Lewis eyeballs a strike, 1-1. Ground ball and another chance for Dunston. Picks it cleanly. No problem to get Lewis. Nice job by Bottenfield coming on, getting 3 in a row. And it's not like you set down 3 nobodies. He had to face Hill, Bonds, and Lewis, 3, 4, 5 in the order. Snow, without an official at bat today, does have a walk, couple walks, a run scored, and an RBI. Steve, we mentioned the Mets came back, beat St. Louis. Dennis Eckersley gave up 3 in the 9th. Pair of home runs. A shot to right, base hit for J.T. Snow. He's been on base 3 times in 4 innings. The Met home runs from a couple of youngsters. Carl Everett, his 3rd. Butch Husky, his 6th. So the Eck loses for the 2nd time this year, and then John Franco marches on, gets his 10th save.
Butch Husky is starting to hit a lot of home runs for the Mets. The young man has tremendous power.
That one in the dirt. Stopped by Service. Former teammate of yours had a decision today for the Seattle Mariners. Dennis Martinez, the losing pitcher, as Scott Erickson improves to 6-1. The Orioles beat the Mariners 9-5.
Dennis has been around a long time. He's had quite a career. Baltimore gave up on him. He resurrected it in Montreal. Went to Cleveland, had some good years, and now finds himself in Seattle with Uncle Lou.
Baltimore and Seattle still the top two teams in the American League, having just beaten each other up the last 4 days. In the National League, you've got the Atlanta Braves at 24-11. Actually 25-11 now since they won today.
Hard to figure out why they're winning. They're second in the league in offense. They're first in the league in pitching.
Yes, that is a puzzle.
I guess usually that puts you at or near the top as they lead the Marlins by 5.
Bonfield comes up and into Miller here, 3-0. Well, the Central, as we've been talking about, very much up for grabs. Houston's 4 games over and in front. There's a strike from Bottenfield. The Astros lost today. The Pirates lost today. Cardinals lost. Reds are losing. So if the Cubs can come back, it's a chance to pick up on the entire division. Down and in. Bottenfield loses Miller, who's been on base 3 times, just like J.T. Snow. Giants have already done plenty of 2-out damage today. Back in the first, it was simply a runner on, 2 out. Then Bonds hit that 2-run homer. It was followed up by a single and a couple of walks. Here in the fourth, there were a couple of ground ball outs, but then Snow with a single, Miller with a walk, and here's Wilkins.
There's that slider low and in that Wilkie has all kinds of problems with. Bottenfield going to it, and he gets a strike.
Wilkins singled his last time up, knocked in a run. A bloop single. Just barely inside the line down there towards left. Miller and Snow, the base runners for San Fran. There's the strike in under the hands. Montreal and L.A. now tied at 2 in the 6th inning. And the Reds have just come back to tie the Padres at 3. Two-strike pitch.
Well, after the outside fastball, it's about time for one more slider low and in. Ahead 0-2. If you miss with it, no big deal. Just make sure that it's down there. And we'll move on to the 5th.
And when we get there, nice part of the order coming up for the Cubs. Dunston, Grace, and Sosa. Sammy 2 out of 2 today with a home run. Rick Wilkins just kind of treading water here early in the 97 season. That batting average stuck in the 150 range. And all those strikeouts piling up before that bloop single last time up. Pounds this one, but foul.
Well, the difference was that was a fastball low and in. That one Wilkie can catch up with. It's the slider that he has some problem. Unfortunately for the Cubs, he got around a little too quickly and yanked that one foul.
Remember, the Cubs traded Wilkins away to Houston for Scott Service and Luis Gonzalez. Pretty good trade.
Luis Gonzalez now back with the Astros. And Scott Service, the #1 catcher for the Cubs.
2 on, 2 out. Wilkins, of course, had the great year for the Cubs in '93. Regressed all the way to a .213 batting average as an Astro last year, though he did bounce back. In his 50 or so games with the Giants last year, he was in the 290s.
Wilkins chipped his bat, and I think Scott Service went out to tell Bottenfield, "You're getting that slider up a little too high in the inner portion. If we go to the slider, you want to keep it down."
Bottenfield, the third Cub pitcher of the day. Foster started and officially went just 2 innings. He faced 3 men in the third. One-two from Bottenfield. Got him! Wilkins striking out for the 6th time in 7 at-bats in this series. No runs, 1 hit. No errors and a couple left. The Giants have stranded 7. On to the 5th at 3Com Park. Cubs down by 3. Hits are even at 7, but the Giants have the lead as we play the 5th. Young fan here. Hello. See, knows how to wave already. A lot of families out here on a Sunday. Mother's Day, 1997. Again, a happy, very happy Mother's Day. Watching back in Chicago today, or wherever you are this afternoon. Dunston waving at that high fastball. He's down 2 strikes.
Sean had the infield hit in the first inning when Gardner failed to cover first base. That opened the door to a 4 spot for the Cubs. And all looked bright. But the Giants have come back with 7 unanswered runs.
Goes after the curve and he grounds it. Vizcaíno to Snow for the first out. Dunston spending that year here in San Francisco last season. And Dunston says he really came to appreciate Mark Grace and Ryan Sandberg more than ever when he was here because of how glowingly the Giants veterans spoke of those guys. Matt Williams and Robbie Thompson, fellas like that, would ask Dunston all these questions about what's it like to play with Grace, what's it like to play with Ryan Sandberg. And Dunston realized at that point, wow, I've been pretty fortunate to have those guys as infield partners. In the air, curling towards left center. And the sliding catch by Hamilton went down on both knees to avoid Barry Bonds.
Well, this is supposed to be Hamilton's ball. But with the winds here in Candlestick, you just never know. The wind's taking it away from him. He makes the basket catch a la Willie Mays. But that's where the similarities end.
Well, we were talking about that new ballpark a little earlier that they're going to be building here in San Francisco, and they are planning a Willie Mays Plaza outside of the yard to honor the franchise's best ever player. There's going to be 24 palm trees in that plaza to symbolize Willie's uniform number. They're going to have a statue of Willie Mays recreating his famous over-the-shoulder catch in the '54 World Series.
Off the bat of
Vic Wertz.
And who was on second base?
It wasn't you.
It was Larry Doby.
Yeah, Larry Doby.
And Jack Brickhouse was announcing the World Series for NBC that year. One of the great things about that catch was the throwback in the infield. Doby had to stay at second.
You know, I've heard Willie talk about that play, and I think that's the thing that he really likes talking about. You get the sense that the catch was almost incidental. It was preparing to make that throw. How do I get the ball back in to hold Doby?
Indians won 111 games that year, 1954, and got swept by the Giants in the World Series. One of the very strange things in baseball history. The Indians just unbeatable all year long. Bear in mind, the 111 wins coming in a season where they only played 154 games.
Right.
And the Giants just took them apart in the World Series.
Well, the Indians had that great pitching. It was Feller and Lemon and
Early Wynn
Garcia.
and Mike Garcia and Ray Narleski and Don Mossy in the bullpen. But, you know, you can hardly remember back to those days.
Well, let's see. You were.
I was.
I'm trying to do the math. You're growing up in
born
Cleveland.
just a couple years later.
Steve's going to have a big birthday later this season.
Hopefully.
Well, you'll get there. The big. Well, it'll be the 11th anniversary of your 39th birthday.
There you go.
I've already done your shopping, so don't even get in my ear.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I hope you like bubble gum.
Arnie Harris is getting me a bag of Beanie Babies. Really nice of him. I appreciate that.
I was wondering why his trunk was open that whole last homestand. July 14th.
That's it.
The
That's
big
Deal
day.
Day. Yes.
I got you French bubble gum.
Thank you.
Sammy 2 for 2 today. Staying alive against Mark Gardner.
Gardner's curveball has gotten a lot better after the first inning, and the Cubs have been held to just 2 singles. After the first 4 hitters produced 4 runs, culminated by the 3-run shot off the bat of the man in the batter's box.
And Sammy pulling back, checks that swing, and takes first base. Big day for Sammy. Although the home run, certainly the most impressive thing he's done today. That ball, well, you can almost still hear the echo from when it clanged off of the seats out there. That was a shot. Tying man moves on deck. For now, it's Dave Hansen at the plate. He's 0 for 2. He's bounced out a couple times. Giants leading 7-4, a product of that 5-run third inning.
Giants opponents have stolen 24 bases against them. They've thrown out 18 of them.
Hansen getting a chance to play a lot on this road trip. Kevin Orr is still on the disabled list, and you really hope that that shoulder will be coming along.
Well, the Cubs are hoping that when Kevin is eligible to come off the disabled list, that shoulder is strong, all the soreness out, and he can resume what was shaping up to be a very promising rookie year, one that might see him contending for Rookie of the Year.
He was planning on doing some light throwing today. I honestly didn't see if he did or didn't. But I asked him if he was going to air it out, and he kind of laughed and said, no, not yet.
Well, he hated to see him go down because he was hitting .239 at the time, which doesn't sound like much, but he came from a long way back and was really starting to hit everything right on the button.
Pitching out, but nothing happening. Our next telecast, don't forget, it's Harry and Steve Tuesday night. Cubs and Dodgers from Wrigley, and there are the hot hitters in Dodger blue.
It's a surprise that Mike Piazza's hot.
Yeah.
You can pretty much list who's hot for the Dodgers and see Piazza all the time. Hansen fouls that one off. Sammy was going, but he'll have to go back to first. Cincinnati has taken the lead now as they head into the bottom of the 6th inning. The Reds leading the Padres 4-3.
Tuesday night, we'll tell you about Terry Mulholland. It was fantastic last time, and the time before that as well. Pedro Estasio's been pretty good, too. There's Terry Mulholland, the goateed wonder. Hansen down on strikes. And the inning comes to an end. No runs, no hits, no errors, 1 left. We've played half the ball game at the stick. 7-4, San Fran.
On today's Discover Card Payback Playback, the Cubs turned their first triple play since 1986 yesterday against the Giants. How ironic is it that the last triple play they turned was also against San Francisco?
I don't know, Steve. How ironic was it?
To me, the irony is something that is hard to describe.
Okay. Bottom of the fifth underway. Gardner swings through it. 7-4 lead for the Giants. Another strike right in there from Kent Bottenfield, who's looked pretty good since coming on in the third.
Gardner wasn't a bad career hitter coming into this year. In fact, last year he hit 162. This year he's off to a slow start with the bat. Somehow I don't think that troubles him too much.
No, not when he's sitting on a 7-4 lead and the curveball's breaking the way it is. It's a piece to that one. Let's quickly pause for station identification.
This is America's #1 sports station, WGN-TV, Chicago.
Josh Lewin with Steve Stone at 3Com Park in San Francisco. And a nice bayside breeze being created again by Mark Gardner. He's been a pretty consistent strikeout victim today. Cubs have gotten him 3 times with 3 different pitchers.
Well, the next time he will most likely see another different pitcher and probably with the same result.
Darrell Hamilton, 1 out of 2 with a walk. A run scored, a run batted in. Former Brewer, former Texas Ranger. This is a guy that was close to being a 400 hitter his first year of pro ball. Came straight out of college and went to the Brewers farm team in Helena, Montana. Ended up at 391.
Not a bad year.
I always thought if they had any sense of humor with that franchise in Helena, they would nickname the team the Handbaskets. Sadly,
they didn't.
They didn't do it. No. Punched foul by Hamilton, and 2-2 still to count. Cubs bullpen has been busy in this series, and particularly today, Foster was taken out in the 3rd inning. Ooh, big gust of wind picking up. Bottenfield stepped off, Hamilton stepped out, and will do so again.
Before they enclosed this ballpark, it was one of the few places where, quite literally, the wind could blow in your face on the mound and be in the face of the hitter at the same time.
Count runs full to Hamilton now. Cubs trailing 7-4. So they did have an early 4-0 lead. Sosa's 3-run home run. One of the longest he's hit in 97. Oh, that guy almost got it.
But the ball dudes ever present down the line. And folks are not making that up. That's what they call them.
Bud Hipsch. That's his name. That's one of the ball dudes.
That's the left field ball dude.
Big Buddy Hipsch. And Hamilton is on. Bottenfield walked his second, jogging alongside of a couple of strikeouts. 1 on, 1 out, and Jose Vizcaíno coming up. Road trip will end up either 4-7 or 5-6. And considering that the Cubs lost the first 2 in Colorado, lost again in LA starting out, you end up with 4 or 5 on a long trip like this. That's really not that bad.
Bob Patterson starting to loosen up in the bullpen as the Cubs will once again run through a good portion of that pen. And they've been the busiest men around.
Well, they've got the day off tomorrow, which is nice. Infield a double play depth.
only problem when your starting rotation consistently doesn't get you to the 6th or 7th inning. Those May and June appearances turn into August and September runs.
Good move by Bottenfield. Hamilton back in. Steve mentioned earlier the heavy heart of Santa Javier playing today on Mother's Day. His mom just passing away a little while ago back in the Dominican. And Jose Vizcaíno, every Mother's Day, always with those emotions as well. Vizcaíno had been very close to his mom. When he broke into pro ball, the promise that he made his mom was a new house. When he finally made it to the majors, sure enough, that's exactly what he gave her. Although his mom then passed away just a year after the fact. Roll the foul. Where are we on Father's Day this year? Do we get to be home for Father's Day? Let's see. Yeah, well, that's the Brewers series. Weekend of June 15th. Vizcaíno, nothing for two with a sacrifice fly. And Bottenfield continues to be concerned about Hamilton at first.
He's getting very close. In fact, with every move, he's getting closer to picking Hamilton off. And the Padres have tied up the Reds 4-4 as the National League is trying to make a clean sweep of the Central on this lovely Mother's Day Sunday.
Hamilton is going, and they pitch out. The return to first. They got him. And you figured it was only a matter of time the way Bottenfield was wearing him out.
Jim Riggleman guesses right, and Scott Service makes a good throw. Hamilton put on the brakes. He would have been out by a mile at second. He tries to dive back, but not in time. Bob Davidson on the call. So they take Hamilton off base. Well-timed pitch out, and a good throw by Service. It's right there.
Pop up, and if Service can find it, the inning will be over, but it's going to bounce out of play. Saw Scott Service out with his parents last night at dinner. I'm assuming a Mother's Day dinner.
And Pat Hughes, our contemporary on the radio side, has his entire family here. Into the ball game over the weekend. Enjoying what for San Francisco has been some pretty nice weather.
That's right. Pat is a Bay Area guy. I forgot about that.
He is.
Just inside in the count 3-2. The Cubs in the 6th will have up Kieschnick, then Service and Sanchez. Trying to keep it to a 3-run game here. Skipping off the mound. And Sanchez. Nicely done. Across to Grace. That's it. No runs, no hits, no errors, none left. And at the end of 5, Giants 7, Cubs 4. Giants in front 7-4 as we hit the 6th inning. Josh Lewin with Steve Stone and producer-director Arnie Harris. Wishing you a happy Mother's Day and looking forward to getting back to Chicago. Tuesday night game, Cubs and Dodgers. On the air at 7 o'clock here on WGN. Kieschnick nothing for 2. And 0 for the road trip as well. Time for Brooks to get something done here as he pops this one foul back to the screen. One-time first-round pick, All-American out of Texas. And he's the guy that started the rally caps the other night, by the way, Steve, in the dugout, 14th inning.
A good time to start him again. The Cubs trail by 3. Still a long way to go, and they'd love to get into that giant pen.
Fouled right back. Boy, the Brewers keep winning. 4 in a row now. They're 18 and 14. They're alone in first place in the Central.
That's another of the real good stories this year.
Well, and the leader of the band is Doug Rasputin Jones. Got his 8th save today. He's 3-0 in relief for Milwaukee. Saved a game for Ben McDonald today. Gerald Williams had the game's only home run. And Kieschnick waits it out. Brooks had been doing a lot of first pitch swinging earlier in this road trip, and real nice to see Brooks with a patient at bat with the team down 3 runs.
Bullpen up and going again. And it's Bob Patterson. So barring a double play, he will get down to the spot occupied by Kent Bottenfield, and Jim Riggleman will go to the bench. And look at a man doing a fine job out of the bullpen once again, Bob Patterson.
Scott Service, 1 out of 2. Scott's been getting a lot of work this year as the #1 catcher and says he doesn't mind it at all. 28 games played now for Scott out of the 35 that the Cubs have been scheduled for.
I think it hit him.
I think you're right. And this is a nice way to get it going here. You got the bottom of the order up, and Gardner's just letting him get on here. A walk and a hit batsman. That'll set it up for Sanchez.
Well, this is one of the least painful ways for Scott Service to get on. It brushes the uniform, and Scott Service, who perennially will lead this team in getting hits, gets hit once again, and for him, that's the 4th time this year.
Which does lead the team again.
Poole and Tavares.
You might remember last year, Service was hit 14 times. And any other year, that would have set the record for National League catchers, except Jason Kendall got plunked 50. You can smile when it nicks your jersey, I suppose. Dusty Baker not smiling. His team working back from down 4-0 to jump ahead 7-4, but the tying man comes up there. Ray Sanchez.
And the Giants think that Ray is going to bunt. Miller and Snow in very close.
Swinging away, busted bat roller, only play to first, and it might as well have been a bunt as it turns out. It moves the runners over. We'll get a pinch hitter for Kent Bottenfield, and it looks like Dave Clark.
First pitch swinging. This one hit off the end of the bat. Lewis, figuring that he'd have to pivot and open himself up to a big inning, decides to take the out. Giants have a 3-run lead, but Dave Clark trying to do something about it. And he's had tremendous production off the bench. Dave Clark with 7 runs batted in on 4 hits in 17 pinch hitting at bats. Including a base hit yesterday in a pinch hitting role, and that's going to be it for Mark Gardner as Dusty Baker makes the slow trip to the mound. The second visit, and it'll probably be Jim Poole.
So Mark Gardner gets into the 6th inning, but that will do it for him, and the Cubs with a chance to tie here in the 6th. That tying man will be at the plate when we return. Out of the pen from the left side, Jim Poole comes out there. Mark Gardner threw 108 pitches in 5 1/3 innings, so time to get the lefty out there.
Jim Poole on for the 18th time. He's appeared in every game this series, but he's only recorded a third of an inning. And he's had control problems, and hopefully the Cubs can exploit that as Dave Clark looks out at a left-hander with runners at second and third. The Cubs 3 down, and a base hit here cuts the lead to 1.
There's the strike. Poole rolls it in. Clark has only faced Poole once, and he struck out in that at bat. But remember, Dave off the bench has been fantastic. That is one strength the Cubs have this year. Some great pinch hitters. Another breaking ball, and Clark agrees that was a strike.
Well, that one started out behind Dave Clark and snapped over the outside corner. That was a dandy.
Clark gets a piece this time.
A lot of times in this situation, pitchers will use a setup pitch, and many times that setup pitch winds up in the outfield. So if you're Rick Wilkins, you've got to go back to another curveball.
Down goes Dave Clark. Jim Poole does a nice job against the lefty.
Well, no setup pitch. That was the curveball, and Clark mystified by it. Big breaking hook. No chance. So Brian will get a chance from the right side now. The reaction to Dave Clark. I'm very happy with that at bat. Poole's come in today with a little better stuff than he had the first 2 outings, but McCray very tough as a right-hand hitter.
That one lollipops in there. Strike 1.
You can see the disparity. 200 points difference on the right side and the left side. And Brian will probably hit this ball through the left side if he gets a curveball middle in.
Well, and a base hit has a good chance to score a couple. Cubs down 7-4. Slowly hit. Miller charging. Barely gets McCray, and the inning is over. Cubs threatened, but they cannot score. No runs. Couple left. Bottom of the 6th on its way. 7-4 San Francisco. Dave Clark stays in the game. He'll play left field. And another change being made. We knew this would happen. Bob Patterson comes on, and he will take over the mound work as the 4th pitcher used by the Cubs this afternoon.
And Ken Bottenfield kept this game in hand, coming on for 2 1/3 innings of fine relief. No runs on a hit. He walked 2, fanned 2 as Bob Patterson comes on for the 18th time. He's been the busiest man out of the bullpen. 1-2, 3.77 ERA.
First pitch swinging, and Glenn Allen Hill drives it into the stands.
He will be facing the heart of the order for the Giants.
That's what Bottenfield had to do his turn. Had to go Hill, Bonds, and Lewis. Got a fly ball and a couple of bounce outs. Another scorcher into the seats. Bottenfield with 2 1/3 innings of work. There's the guy that got that foul ball. Ripped his hair right off. Again, foul. Glenn Allen Hill.
We're making everybody happy on the right side.
Well, sure. Let's all have a foul ball today.
A lot of souvenirs. And this looks to be by far the biggest crowd of the 3-game series. It's a beautiful day for it. A lot of folks bringing mom out to celebrate today.
Patterson staying away again. This time Hill holds back. Well, if Glenn Allen Hill stays healthy, and that's something he has not really been able to do the last few years, He does give the Giants a different look. Down he goes. Patterson blows it right by him. Hill last year was hitting behind Barry Bonds instead of ahead of him, but either way, that kind of thickens up the meat of the order.
Don Penderson picks up a strikeout on some high heat, and that's the spot on Hill. You throw it above his hands on the inner portion, you can throw it by him all day long. But don't get it down because he's real strong downstairs.
Barry Bonds, you know, if he takes the first pitch, a lot of times he'll take that second one, try to get it to 2-0, and that is when Barry goes to town. Swinging this time, and a towering fly ball to center field. McRae battling the wind and the sun, no problem. Barry's still hitting right in the 240 range. There is a Bonds in the Bay Area that's hitting 400 right now. His little brother, Bobby Bonds Jr., is playing for the San Jose Giants. Single-A ball. And as of a week ago, was the leading hitter in all the minor leagues. He was up around 410.
Good bloodline.
Fine shot foul off the bat of Lewis.
Got a brand new hitting instructor here, Gene Klein, who spent a short time with the Cubs, a lot of time with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I'm sure there are some guys that Gene Klein has been able to work with and bring them along a little bit. You wonder what he has to say to Barry Bonds. What is it that you can say to Barry Bonds?
Let's go out there and hit, young man.
Like when Dick Hauser was managing the Royals, I used to ask him, what do you tell George Brett? Because I tell him, add a way to hit, George. Billy Williams and Tony Muser say the same thing about Mark Grace. I mean, what is there to say? He's doing everything that you like to see.
Well, the good hitters know exactly what they do right and what they do wrong, and if they deviate from anything, they're able to come right back. Probably the most prolific hitter around, Tony Gwynn, spends more time watching film than anybody else in this league. He just pores over, has his own library of how guys pitched him, and he prepares for every game, every outing. Takes a look at what the guy did to him the last couple times he faced him, if he had changed his pattern at all, how he approaches him on certain counts. Tony Gwynn wants to make sure, although he is the best hitter of our era, wants to make sure that he is well prepared for every game.
Another two-strike foul off the bat of Lewis. Lewis was hit by a pitch, came around to score in that 5-run third. And the high fastball blows him away. Bob Patterson out of the bullpen to strike out a pair. Nothing doing for San Francisco. We're 2/3 of the way through it now. And the Cubs still in it. They're down 7-4.
Here's today's Ameritech Playbook, your link to better communication, and it's the two bombers, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, each hitting a home run. First, Sosa on a hanging slider, and the second, Barry Bonds on a straight change. They both wind up in the seats, and that's the Ameritech Playbook.
And the superstars accounting for 5 of the 11 runs of this game. Sosa a 3-run homer, Bonds a 2-run jack. Dunston waves at one here against Jim Poole.
Bullpen up and going again as Julian Taveras.
Jim Poole, a veteran pitcher. Been around a little bit. Came up with the Dodgers. He played for the Rangers, the Orioles, and the Indians. Then came over here. Middle of the summer last year.
Jose Hernandez, Tyler Houston. Tyler Houston getting the good news that there were no fractures in his hand. Should be available when it's his turn to come off the list.
Hopefully.
He's really a valuable man on this team because if you have a man who can play first, third, and catch, swing the bat as well as he does from the left side, you like to have him around.
Foul ball by Dunston. Well, Houston went on the disabled list with 8 runs batted in only 40 at bats. That's pretty good. Makes contact. Kevin Orr is still on the DL, of course, and the Cubs hoping that they'll have good news on him. 3 balls, 2 strikes on Sean Dunston. The Cubs trying to get it revved up here in the 7th. They crave a couple base runners here. Sosa is the 3rd man due in the inning.
The Cubs hoping that the control of Poole, which has been somewhat suspect this year, starts to desert him.
Very high foul, bending out of play. Cubs got all 4 of their runs in the top of the 1st. In fact, the first 4 batters of this ball game all scored for Chicago, and since then, Gardner and now Jim Poole have held them down. Dunston smashes one to center. Darrell Hamilton waiting. Again, the Cubs coming home to Wrigley on a Tuesday night. That special tribute to Jackie Robinson in the works. Ernie Banks will be on hand. Buck O'Neill will be there. And if you can't make it out to the ballpark, it'll be Harry and Steve in the booth for you Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Mike Piazza and the Dodgers coming in. Grace flares one to left. That's down for a base hit. Cut off well by Bond. Mark Grace, a couple of base hits to left today. What new?
Doesn't care if a right-hander or a left-hander is on the mound. Mark Grace just does what he always does. Hits the ball and finds a hole, and I think that's probably going to be it for Jim Poole. Watch Sammy's home run in the 1st inning. Got every bit of this. At the time, all smiles for the Cubs. They were up 4-0 after 4 hitters. And Julian Taveras will come into the game to face Sammy Sosa.
Jim Poole hands the ball over, and we will have the Sosa at bat for you in a 7-4 game right after this. Julian Taveras comes out there, and he is pitching on the Marshall plan. That's the Mike Marshall plan. At this rate, he's going to be in about 100 ball games for the Giants.
Well, he leads the staff in appearances. This is his 20th. Only 17 innings, however. He has no record, has a high ERA, has a tremendous fastball. And in the words of Dusty Baker, he's got a great future. Chance to be a very good pitcher because he's got a great arm. But right now, he is more of a thrower than a pitcher, and they would like to work with him. Dick Pohl, a very good pitching coach. They've got the advantage of having Ron Peronowski, a longtime Dodger pitching coach, as the bench coach for the Giants. So there's a whole lot of help for Taveras. And he came over from the Cleveland Indians in the huge trade that sent Matt Williams to the Indians. He was one of the players acquired, one of the key players in that deal. And Turk Wendell now throwing for the Cubs in their pen.
It'll be Sammy Sosa at the plate, and Sammy has had himself a great day. That long home run, hard single in the left center. Last time up he walked. 1 on, 1 out. 7-4 lead. Some other games today. The Marlins over the Astros 6-3. Moisés Alou having a pretty nice year. Kurt Schilling 12 strikeouts. Phillies knocked down Colorado. They've lost 5 in a row. Atlanta takes 2 out of 3 in Pittsburgh, as it turns out. Big day for John Smoltz. Eckersley gives it up for St. Louis. A blast to left, a base hit for Sammy. He's done it again. Grace going to third. Sammy turns it on to get to second. Bonds played that ball back in so quickly. It goes as a double. And Dave Hansen will have a chance to be the tying man now.
Tavares in with a high fastball, and Sammy hit it harder than Tavares threw it. Now it's very possible that Rich Rodriguez, throwing in the bullpen, will come in, depending on what Dusty Baker wants. Rodriguez just got up. He hasn't had a chance to throw too much. But here comes Dusty Baker. And he's going to force the hand of Jim Riggleman, who will probably now go to Jose Hernandez.
He could do that. He could go to Sandberg if you wanted to. And the carousel keeps spinning here. Dusty Baker. Looks like he's going to bring in his fourth pitcher of the day. So a 7-4 game. Very short effort here for Tavares. Let's go back to that scoreboard quickly. Montreal and L.A. knotted up in the ninth. And the Reds and Padres tied at 4 now as they get late. American League board. The Tigers got a couple home runs from Tony Clark. And they beat up on Cleveland 11-3. Texas beats Boston despite another Mo Vaughn home run 8-6. It was the Yankees over Kansas City. And the Orioles able to get past Seattle despite the 4 Mariner home runs. 9-5 that final. Milwaukee wins again. That's 4 straight. The Brewers alone in first place in the American League Central. And the White Sox. Wow, it was a grand slam for Albert. They rally past Oakland 8-5. Tonight it is Toronto and Minnesota. Woody Williams has to try to follow what Roger Clemens did last night. And here's Rich Rodriguez. It looks like he is going to face Hernandez.
Rich Rodriguez comes in, and he's done an outstanding job out of the bullpen. A 2-2 record, a 1-point ERA. He's on for the 19th time. And there is Lou Seal, the new mascot. Looks a little more like a muskrat than a seal, but nonetheless, they're trying to capture the young crowd here, and over 22,000 in attendance here today. Jose Hernandez with a chance to inch the Cubs a little closer here in the 7th inning. Rodriguez made this team as a non-roster player out of spring training, and he's done just about everything right so far. For the Cubs, with runners at second and third, nobody out here, and a golden opportunity to narrow the gap.
Jim Riggleman will send up Jose Hernandez. And Riggleman, very familiar with Rich Rodriguez, managed him when Riggs was with the Padres a couple years ago. They are getting down here in San Francisco. Nice crowd today, 22,951. They've watched their Giants come from down 4-0 to spring into this lead of 7-4. But Hernandez up there is the tying man, and yep, Jose has a little bit of pop. Still just 1 out in the inning. Grace and Sosa have been doing most of the hitting for the Cubs today.
Rodriguez has yet to allow a home run. What a time for his first.
Wild inside here.
You know, Josh, we talked about Sammy hitting the ball to right field, and when he starts to hit the ball to right field, get his base hits, things start to turn around for him, and that's exactly what happened. A couple of hits yesterday, both to right field, and today they're coming inside on him, and he's starting to pull the ball with authority.
Well, you like that in a series of any length, 3 games or 4 games. 4-game series pretty much a thing of the past now with this new intra-league schedule kind of messing things up. But first day in, if you can establish in your first couple at bats that you can go to right, you're going to get that inside fastball every once in a while.
Ryan Sandberg in the on-deck circle.
A chopper. Miller charging. He's coming home. And Grace tries to spin his way past. He's out.
So that was the contact play, and they put it on before the ball is hit. And you tell the man at third, in this case Mark Grace, on anything, you're going home. Well, a heads-up play by Miller. He's played a very good third base in the series. No chance for Mark Grace to outrun this, and Gracie knows he's hung out to dry.
Get down on it.
Get him on the old spin and go.
He was trying to deke his former teammate Rick Wilkins.
But he couldn't get a pick. That was the problem. And Wilkie looking at him saying, nope, I'm going to get you.
Well,
so now runners at the corners with Ryan Sandberg up.
I tell you what, if Wilkins hadn't had the ball in his bare hand, if he had the ball in his glove ready to tag Grace, Grace spins right by him. I mean, all he had was the one bare hand out there. Perhaps Wilkins could have made the adjustment.
That was a spin, but Michael Jordan does it a little more quickly than Mark Grace.
Runners at the corners, 2 outs now. Sandberg pinch hitting. And he is the tying man. You've got the righty up there against the lefty.
You don't see Rhino pinch hitting much. But he gets an opportunity for the first time this year. And he does hit lefty.
At the knees, or thereabouts. 2 strikes to count to Rhino. Cubs threatened the last inning, couldn't score. They had second and third, 1 out here in the 7th. It's now first and third, 2 outs. Looking for a base hit from Sandberg. Service on deck. Sandberg has always hit the San Francisco team very well. But keep in mind, Rodriguez is new to this San Francisco team. Little loop shot back behind second base. It drops. A run comes in over to third base is Hernandez, and it's now 7-5. Reach out and touch someone. Ryan Sandberg just got the bat on the ball, and it loops into shallow right.
Rhino takes this one right off the ground and drives in a run. RBI number 12. And now with Scott Service up and runners at first and third. Rick Wilkins out to kill little time. It's going to be, I believe, Doug Henry. As soon as Dusty Baker looking over his lineup card. Probably realizing now that most of the left-handers in the starting lineup today, and there's Doug Henry. I gotta believe he's going to face Scott Service.
Jim Riggleman loves to pinch hit, and last year it was more quantity than quality. Cub pinch hitters hit just 207, and there has been some pretty good production off the bench this year for Riggleman. Of course, Clark and Hansen added to the mix. Anytime you've got Rhino coming off the bench, that's a bonus.
So it is Doug Henry.
And Rodriguez was out there to face a couple guys, and well, as it turns out, this inning continues, and it'll be up to Doug Henry to close it out. There you check out Doug Henry's line, and like a lot of these Giant relievers, Steve, he's done everything Dusty Baker has asked of him.
Jeff Kent coming in the game in the flip-flop lineup. And Kent getting a hand from the crowd. Doug Henry, the 4th pitcher of the inning, employed by Dusty Baker. And Henry's been a good one. 2-0, 1.02 ERA on for the 18th time. He has given up a homer. He's walked 8. He's fanned 16 in 17 2/3 innings. Jim Riggleman looking for a comeback here. Cubs had the lead briefly in the first. They saw it slip away in the third. And now they're 2 runs down, but those 2 runs on the bases.
Doug Henry, who spent his childhood in the Bay Area, coming back here after some time in the American League. Henry, a guy who pitched for current Cubs hitting coach Tony Muser. Muser managed Denver AAA ball in the early 1990s. It'll be Henry against Scott's service. The lead has been trimmed down to 7-5.
And the only thing left for the Cubs as far as hitting is concerned is right-handed.
Five pitchers used in this game by Dusty Baker. He used only 3 yesterday, but 7 the first night in. He also used 7 in the game before this series started against the Expos. Service 1 out of 2.
With Jim Riggleman going to almost the entire left-hand lineup against the right-hand starter, it leaves him with Doug Glanville and Mike Hubbard on that bench. Remember, the Giant closer is a right-hander, Rod Beck.
One strike pitch to Service. Missing away. Cubs had the lead in this one 4-0 in the top of the first. Giants came back with 2 in the bottom of the first, added 5 in the third. Now the Cubs chipping back in the 7th. Poked foul and 1-2.
Well, as has been the case with most of these Cub-Giant matchups, neither team can pull away from the other team, so it lends itself to some very interesting games.
There's some room in right center for Service. Runners at the corners, 2 down. Couldn't get it. Doug Henry strikes out Scott's Service, and that ends the inning. The Cubs do get 1. On 3 base hits, the last one, the pinch hit single by Rhino. 7th inning stretch, 7-5, San Francisco. .5 ball game. The Giants by a couple now as Jose Hernandez stays in the game to play some third base. And we'll check out a new pitcher for the Cubs. That's Turk.
Again, good bullpen outings by Bottenfield and Patterson, and Turk Wendell comes on for the 15th time. 4.0 ERA, 0-2 record. Turk had a little scare with his shoulder, but eventually it turned out that soreness went away. That's good news for the Cubs. When Turk is right, he's mighty tough. And he's got to hold the Giants right there, and he's by most of the real tough hitters, so hopefully he can string together a good inning or so and keep the Cubs in the game.
Little check swing foul off the bat of J.T. Snow, and Snow has been a tough out. Couple of walks and a single in this one. J.T. Snow, the son of a former Notre Dame great and L.A. Ram great Jack Snow. And an aspiring actor, by the way. He was an extra on ER winter before last.
Very good.
Didn't do anything. He just kind of was in the background, but still. J.T. Snow, master thespian. What he has not been acting like is a home run hitter. None of them this year. We were talking earlier about the history of this franchise, from Cepeda back to Johnny Mize.
Don't forget Big Mac, the Hall of Famer, Willie McCovey.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time over there and hit a lot of home runs in this ballpark.
Slugging first baseman. That has been the history, although these are kind of the Todd Benzinger salad days right now. And ball 4. J.T. Snow has walked for the 3rd time today. Remember, the Cubs didn't walk anybody in the ball game yesterday. Snow has been walked 3 times just by himself this afternoon.
Hernandez will move in a little bit at third. Trying to take the bunt away from Miller, who's had a fine defensive series at third base.
Miller, a switch hitter who has hit 300 everywhere that he has chosen to stop on in. A ball, double A, triple A, major leagues. Here's Riggleman out to the mound. And you wonder if everything's all right with Turk.
Turk's not saying much, and everybody in the infield on the mound, so Riggs probably talking about a defensive situation, what to do in case Snow takes off, or they use the bunt. Snow 2 for 2 in the stolen base department. The Giants not the most aggressive team in the league as far as running is concerned. Mark Grace is moving in back of Snow with the pitch. So he wants to get a better angle in case Miller does pull it. He'll hold on Miller, and then just before the pitch, move in back of it.
Infield trying to coax that double play bouncer. Grace to Dunston. That's all they'll get. They did get the ground ball, but it was hit too slowly. So Miller takes over for Snow and has about the same speed. 1 stolen base this year for Miller after none last year. And Rick Wilkins now, the ex-Cub, coming all the way up through that Cubs system.
And in the pitcher's spot, remember the flip-flop batting order, it's Jeff Kent in the on-deck circle.
That RBI single for Wilkins has been the lone ray of sunshine in this series for him. Otherwise, he's struck out 6 times in 6 at-bats. Nice backhand pickup by Service.
We said it a lot on the road trip, and Scott Service has been just terrific at blocking anything. I can't remember a ball that's gotten by him. And that's one aspect of Scott's game that has really come along. So he's getting better and better at it. The 2 catchers traded for one another, of course, along with pretty good outfielder Louis Gonzalez. That was with the Houston Astros. Gonzalez now back with the Astros. And Wilkins shuttled from Houston to San Francisco for Kurt Manwaring, who now is with Colorado. So everybody moving around.
You were talking about Service and his ability to keep the ball in front of him. I guess the only way to really quantify that statistically, you look at how many wild pitches that the Cubs pitching staff has allowed this year. It's the 2nd least in the National League right now, only 8 of them. Ball and a strike to Rick Wilkins. It's a 7-5 ball game. Giants by a pair. Big rip, and Wilkins couldn't get it.
And that's the spot, lowing in with the slider. And if Wilkins does make contact, he usually yanks it foul.
As Wilkins gets ready to step back in, let's quickly pause for station identification.
This is America's #1 sports station, WGN-TV, Chicago.
Back in San Francisco, Turk Wendell on the mound. Josh Lewin and Steve Stone with you. Ready to take it back on home to Chicago. After the off day tomorrow, the Dodgers in to start the 9-game homestand. Wilkins peppers one right back at us. It'll drop just down to our left.
Just got away that time with a slider that hung out over the plate. Wilkins fortunately fouled it back.
One on, one out. Steve mentioned it's Jeff Kent on deck. Tough out. Ground ball through the hole and through the legs of Bill Miller. He had a high hurdle over that one. So Wilkins getting a pitch that he could have handled. Just rolls it into right field.
Take a look at the play. You avoid it. Wilkins gets the base hit. And Bill Miller skipping the rope to get out of the way of this one. Goes on by him and puts two runners on with only one out. And the bullpen going to get to work again for Jim Riggleman. Mike Hubbard trots down there. That means someone is going to get up.
And the winner is Terry Adams. 2 on, 1 out, and a half swing foul by Kent. The 7 home runs leading this Giants team, as are the 29 runs batted in.
Cubs have employed 15 pitchers in this series, 15 pitching changes. Of course, a lot of the same guys getting a lot of work here, and Terry Adams would be the 16th.
Another hard foul by Kent.
Wendell faced Kent yesterday and got him swinging on strike 3.
Turk Wendell started for the Cubs during most of spring training, and early in spring training really had the best stuff of any Cubs pitcher. And towards the end of spring training, it was back to the bullpen. He's done a pretty good job. A smash down the left field line. A fair ball into the corner. 1 run is in. Wilkins coming around third. He'll be held. It is an 8-5 baseball game.
Well, Dusty Baker in a flip-flop batting order put Jeff Kent into the perfect spot. And the second baseman gets one out over the plate and delivers. Kent now has driven in 30 runs in 33 games. Tremendous production. And even more important for the Giants, they take a 3-run lead.
Boy, I hate to see somebody pull a ball on an 0-2 pitch.
Yes, you do. But, yes, he did. And watch it again. This one just right down the middle. And Jeff Kent doesn't miss many of these. And now Hamilton put aboard for Jose Vizcaíno. And that will probably mean, if he's ready, that Terry Adams would come into the game. Although before that happens, most likely someone would have to go to the mound, like Service or Grace, and talk with Wendell to allow Terry to throw a few more warm-ups. He just got up. I'm not sure if he's loosened up yet.
Oh, the Cubs have out-hit the Giants in this one, but they trail 8-5. And apparently Terry Adams is ready to go. Jim Riggleman will walk slowly to buy a little bit more time. But Terry Adams isn't going to use it. He's going to run right out there, get ready to face Jose Vizcaíno. By the way, they've gone to the 10th inning in L.A. The Expos and the Dodgers are 3-3. The Padres batting in the bottom of the 9th, tied with the Reds 4-4. St. Louis has already lost today. The Mets came from behind with a couple of 9th inning home runs off Dennis Eckersley. Mets 6 and the Cardinals 4. And the Pirates, after ballooning to 19 and 15, they're back down to 19 and 17. They lost yesterday to their former teammate Denny Nagel. Today it was John Smoltz that shut him down 8-2.
Dusty Baker looking out, knows the bases are loaded with Giants, and Terry Adams, who came on to pitch the 11th and 12th inning in that Friday night game, threw 2 hitless innings. And this year, the numbers have just been otherworldly for the young man. 0-1, no earned run average on for the 16th time. 20 and 2/3 innings. He's walked 7, 2 of them intentionally. He's fanned 22, given up 13 hits, and in the earned run column, a goose egg. So what a year it's been for Terry Adams. And he's going to have to be at his best here. No margin for error. Cubs trail by 3.
One thing that Terry Adams has developed, it seems, Steve, is that I guess what you'd call the bullpen mentality, where when you cross that line into fair territory, start your warm-up throws, it is all intense focus, all business, something that Randy Myers showed you with his team a couple of years ago. I mean, Randy in the bullpen or off the field, you never knew exactly what was happening, but once he climbed up there on that mound, he was ready to go.
Well, it's always nice when you're serving an apprenticeship, and that's what Terry Adams was doing after very few minor league innings, considering that he began as a starter, then was switched over into the stopper mode. Who better to learn from than a man who probably will eventually have the left-handed record for saves, Randy Myers, although John Franco has a little something to say about that. He's still active and doing very well. But Terry now against Vizcaino with no place to put it.
Wilkins, Kent, and Hamilton on base. Ground ball slowly hit. Sanchez spinning. Gets the man at first. The run comes home. Boy, if Ray doesn't get over as quickly as he does, that's into right field.
Vizcaino once again gets the job done. He's driven in 2 runs without the benefit of a hit today, giving him 7 for the year. The Giants now lead by 4. Good play by Ray Sanchez, ranging to his left. He's only got 1 play, and he makes it.
Run comes across on this play, but the whirlybird throw from Sanchez. And now Glenn Allen Hill, a power threat. Pops it up. Shallow right. Sanchez drifting back. Calling off Sammy. Puts it away. And it could have been worse in the 7th inning, but 2 runs are in. And on to the 8th, 9-5. As we get to the 8th inning, and Doug Henry still out there on the mound to face Ray Sanchez.
And Stan Javier checks into the game, and he'll play right field. Mel Rojas loosening up in the bullpen.
Sanchez today with a single, a sacrifice. He has also struck out. There's Javier, the new right fielder. Doug Henry, the 5th pitcher of the game for the Giants. Dusty Baker going right, left, right, left, right in that order. Cubs have done the same thing. And added 1 more right-hander at the end, Terry Adams.
Well, you could use a walk or 2 in this situation. Ray Sanchez walked 4 times this year.
Showing the bunt, thought better of it. Here's a Chrysler Plymouth game summary. Sammy Sosa, another big day at the plate, including that long home run, but Barry Bonds has also been a factor today. Giants leading 9-5. Sanchez booms one out there to left field, but Bonds back to make the catch.
Well, it certainly wasn't pretty, and Barry Bonds didn't expect Sanchez to hit it quite that hard. But in the end, for the Giants, all's well that ends well as Bonds turns, then has to backpedal as this ball starts to take off, and then he makes the catch.
He was still looking smooth all the way till he had to reach up. And it almost took off on him. Here's Dave Clark. He was up there on a tough pinch hitting assignment. As it turned out, he had to face a lefty, Jim Poole, and he struck out with runners at 2nd and 3rd. on the outside. Wind picking up a little bit here on Candlestick Point. 3Com Park at Candlestick Point is the official nomenclature now. That's how you got to say it. Although, what are they going to do if you don't? And they're not going to come into the booth and drag you out, I don't think.
I don't know. Give it a try. Maybe Lucille will come up here and bop you.
I'd like to see him try. Clark with a big cut.
Henry's been something special out of the bullpen. Last year, just 2 and 8 for the Mets with 9 saves, so he was used as a closer. But what a job he's done for Dusty Baker.
We haven't seen a lot of Lucille, the mascot, in this series. He makes that requisite appearance to dance on the dugout, lift a flipper in the general direction of a Cub, and then he just kind of disappears.
You don't want to overexpose him. It's early in the season.
Mm-hmm. My theory is he was just very embarrassed to be out there in that costume. Ground ball solidly to second, and Kent with the backhand to pick up 2 down in the 8th inning. Brian McRae back in the 1st inning made it a 12 out of 13 hitting streak. 13 games, and 12 of them he's gotten at least 1 base hit.
Well, Montreal has jumped on top of Los Angeles 6-3. That game's still in the top of the 10th.
And it looks like bottom of the 10th now in San Diego. Reds and Padres tied at 4. McRae to right field. That is well struck. And at the wall, Javier makes the catch. Where was that big gust of wind when we needed it? No runs, no hits, no errors, none left. Bottom of the 8th coming up. 9-5 Giants. Well, the Cubs with another left fielder. This time it's Doug Glanville who will come on out there and bat in the 6th spot in the batting order. Taking over on the mound, it is Mel Rojas.
Rojas will become the 17th pitching change. 17th pitcher employed by Jim Riggleman in this 3-game series. There you look at the numbers. Mel starting to throw the ball a whole lot better as he starts to get more regular work. On to the 16th time, 0-1. 3.77 ERA, just trying to get him an inning. So he'll be sharp for that 9-game homestand. And there are still plenty of seats available for that young man or anyone else who wants to attend.
What's he got there? What is that? Oh, he's getting shy on us now. Barry Bonds will be coming up here, and this is what he did in the 1st inning. Socked it out of there to right. And that's got the Giants on the move. They were down 4-0 before Bonds was hit. Rojas to Bonds. And some history between these guys. Rojas once hit Barry Bonds with a fastball. Bonds didn't like it. There was a little bit of a flurry out there on the mound. Rojas ended up getting ejected.
Well, Barry wearing that protector over his lead elbow, the right elbow, allows you to get close to the plate, lean out over, and not really worried about taking one off that elbow.
Rojas stays down. 3 balls, no strikes. Cubs have a very nice part of the order coming up in the 9th. Dunston, Grace, and Sosa. Rojas' job is to keep it close, but first he must throw a strike. 4 pitches and Bonds walks.
Bonds no stranger to the base on balls. And now the that they have Kent behind him on most days. Kent driving in a lot of runs. Berry now has walked for the 33rd time in 33 games.
The pitcher, Doug Henry, will bat and be sacrificing here to be sure. Right now, the Cubs are out hitting the Giants 10-9. You ask, how can they be trailing by 4? Well, here's one theory. The Giants pitching staff today has walked only 2 batters. The Cubs, meantime, have walked 9.
That'll usually do it.
Now, it's just a theory, but and it comes on the heels of a great performance yesterday. The Cubs with Telemaco, Tatis, and Wendell, they combined for no walks and 9 strikeouts. There goes Bonds. Strike called. And Bonds safely, easily into second base.
That not even close. And really nothing that Scott Service could do. Fastball down the middle, but Bonds got such a great jump. Mel Rojas paying no attention to him, so Scott Service could have done just about anything and still not get Barry Bonds. I still believe Henry's going to sacrifice, only this time instead of bunting it up the right side, he'll try to bunt it to Jose Hernandez at third.
Well, he's got one last chance. 2 strikes on him. Skipping it up there that time, and Service again has to go down and dig it out.
Henry showed bunt, pulled the bat back, and looks like he's going to take a chance. He's not had an at-bat this year. Jose Hernandez still believes he's going to bunt. He's in on the grass at third.
Swinging, and down he goes. But because of the stolen base, they do have Bonds standing at second with just 1 out. J.T. Snow comes up, and he is trying to continue a perfect day at the plate. 3 walks and a single. Former California Angel. Got out of there just in time, just before they became Anaheim, and there is a blast heading towards Anaheim. Home run, J.T. Snow, his first of the year. And the Giants stack it up with 2 more here in the 8th. It is 11-5.
That infernal horn keeps banging away. The bell keeps ringing. The runs keep coming, and it appears that the Cubs will be 4-7 on the road trip as this fastball right down the middle, and J.T. Snow with 12 runs batted in now, 3 runs batted in today, and a perfect day. 3 walks and a couple of hits, including a 2-run bomb.
Now Bill Miller. He tries to go the other way. Check out the swing here from J.T. Snow.
Well, he loves the ball down, and that one just below the belt, and not much doubt about it.
Chop ball to Grace. For out number 2. Now this ballpark continues to be a personal house of horrors for Mel Rojas. He pitched here a couple of years ago 4 times during that 1995 season, and each of the 4 times he blew a save for the Montreal Expos. No save to worry about in this one, but he was out there trying to keep the Cubs close. Now the Cubs will need a 6th spot in the 9th inning. Rick Wilkins 2 out of 4, and it's been literally all or nothing for Wilkins in this series. He's batted 8 times. He's had a couple of hits, and he has struck out the other 6 times up. Going around right there. Again, Dunston, Grace, and Sosa due for the Cubs in the ninth. Rolled to Mark Grace. He'll touch up, and that'll do it. But the J.T. Snow home run makes this one 11 for the Giants, 5 for the Cubs. Last chance for Chicago coming up. .5 into the ninth. At least one Cubs fan there in the front row. A happy Mother's Day to you. It would be a happier Mother's Day with a 6-run or 7-run ninth. We'll see if Sean Dunston can get him started up. Sean 1 out of 4.
Rod Beck loosening up in the bullpen.
That's not a real vote of confidence for Doug Henry, is it?
Well, Henry's throwing the ball real well, but Dusty Baker doesn't want to let this one get away. His team was really struggling, and it appears they're on the verge of taking 2 out of 3 from the Cubs.
It's been a rough series for Sean. He has hit a little bit, but he's made 4 errors in this series, having made only 3 all season coming into this weekend. And Steve, it's unfortunate. The road trip started out with a tight game into Colorado. There's a base hit for Sean. Rolls it into left field. Well, the thing that got the Cubs unglued starting out this road trip in Colorado was a botched double play. Cubs had a fairly easy double play to turn in what was a scoreless game at that point, and that's when the chassis kind of came apart on the jalopy at that point. And in this one, bookending this road trip, you go back to the 3rd inning where the Giants pushed across 5 runs. Again, it was a double play not turned that really came back to cost them.
Kevin Tapani. Projections around the All-Star break for him.
Well, keep in mind the Cubs showed plenty of life in yesterday's 9th inning. Grace to the opposite field. Bonds on the move, and just makes it look simple out there.
All he does is coast under it and makes the over-the-shoulder catch, and seemingly had the ball all the way. Looked very much like a football receiver going into the corner of the end zone as Barry Bonds coasts under it, measures it, makes the catch, and the Cubs 2 outs away from going 4 and 7 on this West Coast swing.
He was out there on the opposite side of the football end zone from the catch, the Dwight Clark catch.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Big day for Sammy. On base 4 times. He's hit his 5th home run. And the old cliche, he is a triple shy of the cycle. Single, double, homer, and a walk for Sammy. And a 7-game hitting streak for Sosa now. Tell you what, during this streak, 14 out of 30.
That's the way Sammy's always hit. The light turns on and Sammy gets awfully hot. And as far as the Cubs are concerned, with a 9-game homestand ahead of them, they need Sosa and all the power that he can produce.
Well, unless something changes here, the road trip will end up 4 and 7. And the good stuff was in the middle. This road trip was like a big Oreo cookie. The team did take 2 out of 3 in San Diego. They played some very exciting ball in L.A. They won the extra inning affair, the 14-inning game to open up this trip to San Fran. There's a strike on the outside edge, 2-2. Remember, it's a day off tomorrow. I know not for a lot of you, but for the for the Cubs anyway. Please don't stay home from work on my account. Right back to Wrigley on Tuesday. Harry will be back in the booth, and Harry's sorry that we didn't get you any better than 4 and 7 here on this trip. But now it's back to you at Wrigley, and the Cubs actually started playing some very good baseball at home towards the end of that last homestand. Sosa down on strikes. Boy, he took a big rip. But now 2 down in the 9th inning.
Well, how often do you see 4 hitters, 4 runs in the first inning off the starting pitcher, and yet he goes on to be in line to record his 4th victory of the year, but that'll be the case with Mark Gardner.
By the way, Steve, that Dodger game's the final. Montreal with a 3-run 10th inning wins it 6-3. Hernandez, ground ball towards the hole. Miller smothers it. Ball game's over. And perhaps with an appropriate play, the Giant defense has been outstanding. And San Francisco wins this one, as it turns out. The final 11-5. We'll be back with more coming up. Here's the Budweiser play of the game. Barry Bonds helping to steer San Francisco back into first in the NL West as he drives his first inning homer off Kevin Foster. The Giants go on to an 11-5 win, although the Cubs out-hit them today, 11-10. Our next telecast on WGN will be Tuesday night from Wrigley Field. Harry's back. It's the Dodgers and the Cubs. Coverage begins at 7 o'clock Central Time. The producer-director of Cubs baseball is Arnie Harris. Our associate producer, Mandy Cohen. And the executive producer of WGN Sports, Bill Borson. For Steve Stone, this is Josh Lewin. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast, if not that final, which again was the Giants 11 and the Cubs 5.